who should be here any minute. There she is. Mary, who is our
I had to go see a man about a horse.
teacher of our children's program. And the children are here.
This is our
Thanks
last
for being with us.
It was our last Sunday for the year till September, and then the
Which
little.
is my birthday.
Ooh. And
November
then,
17th.
and so Evan, Ben, and Maya, we had a question that we wanted to
Why didn't
ask. Well, this is what we kind of thought that might be good for in general. So, what do you do? How do you take care of this problem when you have a friend and you have an argument with them and you're mad and you feel like you're right, but you also feel sad that you had an argument because they still like that person. So that's the best way to deal with that?
Wow. That's a good question. And first, I just want to start by thanking the children and their parents who have come many times over this year, and Mary for leading, and for the beautiful altar you set up out in the garden today. So I think it's maybe still there.
It's still there.
So you can take a peek at the Buddha in the garden before you leave. The children are out there. I wanted to be out there, but. So you have an argument with a friend. Well, let's first start there. How many have had arguments with their friends? And look around. Everyone in the whole world has arguments.
Well, I haven't had an argument with my friend yet.
Oh, you're so lucky.
No? Wow, you're the only one so far. And, but it could happen, right?
Someday it's gonna happen.
Okay, there you go.
Who knows?
Someday you should plan on it.
Or you
So
try
that's-
not to hope for it.
Yeah, but first that's really important to notice that we all have these. And we're probably not going to just have one in our life. Maybe we're going to have more than one. So I like your question because you can think ahead about it. So I'm going to start by asking, what do you do?
Yeah. What do you guys do if that happens? You know, Maya?
Just a couple of thoughts. It doesn't have to be perfect, but what do you know that helps? You don't have to answer if you don't want, but I'd love to hear.
You usually have lots of interesting ideas, Maya.
Walk away.
You could walk away.
Yeah, you could walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
You might cry. Sometimes I've cried.
How many have cried because their argument with their friend hurt their feelings? Yeah, that's pretty common. How many walk away? How many run away? If it gets really, really like you're so mad and you're going to throw something,
You
which
gotta run.
Zopa has done, or you're going to slam a door, which Zopa has done, it would be better to run. Yeah, run away. And one time I was working with some men who get really, really angry at their wives. And one of the psychologists said the best thing to do is run out the door. Run out the door and run till you're not angry anymore. And these big guys tried that out and said that was really good. And so the person in my house knew I was coming back, but they knew I'm running out the door so I don't hurt anybody. What else could we do? Let's hear from other people's ideas. What do you do when you fight with a friend? You want to stay their friend.
What's that, Maya?
You could try and say sorry to them. And
Try to
make
say
it
sorry.
better.
Say so, to apologize.
Oh, yeah, great. You can apologize. Yeah. Oh, is that easy to do? No. No. Oh, yes. Especially if you're still mad. Oh gosh, it's so hard to say I'm sorry. But I can usually do it a little later. You know, like days or years later. It's very important to even years later, because some people,
Hold a grudge.
there you go, Evan, they hold the grudge, and how does that hurt you or the other person?
Well, it mostly. Okay, I'm just taking a wild guess at this.
Yeah,
It mostly hurts both.
there you go. That's a good wild guess. It hurts both you and the other person, because while you hold a grudge, your heart is all tight, right?
It's kind of like a stone, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, like a stone, I'm pretty sure too. Yeah, and we don't really want that big rock kind of hanging in us.
So it doesn't feel good to hold a grudge.
Probably.
And we think we're hurting the other person, but they're, like the Dalai Lama says, they're just going on about their business. They might be happy and they might be kind of sad, but they're not holding it like we are. So that's a really good one. Say you're sorry, let go. What else? We could have one more, eh? Or two or three. What do you do, Mary?
Well, the apologizing has been a big part of it. And then sometimes if I'm really riled up, I find that it's better like to run away and be by yourself. But maybe not run away, but just go maybe outside. So I have to take a few deep breaths, like we do, take our breaths before we practice. And sometimes you kind of blow out the stuff a little bit, and then I just sort of think about it for a minute. It's like, what happened there? And what was my part in what happened? That's what I try to do. I don't always do it very good, but that's what I try to do. It doesn't feel good when you're mad. It just feels really painful, and I think Zopa is it's really true that we have to remember that we're hurting ourselves just as much, and as long as we have that pain inside of us, it's hard to be nice.
Yeah, and it's hard to be happy. And Dora has something to ask.
It helps me if I stop and think about, instead of thinking about the argument, I remember some good things about my friend and how much I really like them for this reason and that reason, and we did this together, and most of the time we're pretty happy with each other, and I would hate to lose that. So I remind myself of that, and then it sometimes makes the thing we were fighting about seem less important and not and something that I could let go of and apologize for and start over again and try to be happy together again.
And what do you think about if we felt like we needed to talk to somebody about it? Would that
I do that.
like your mom or
It's
your dad?
kinda tricky, though.
Yeah, it is tricky.
I go talk to someone about it, but now I bet you know about this. Sometimes you slip into gossiping or blaming the other person. Like if I go talk to Bill about I'm upset about something, I could fall into, well, it's that person's fault, and they did this and they did that and blah, and they're wrong and I'm right. And because Bill is really a Dharma friend, he'll say, well, Zopa, do you think that's true? You know, and help you think about it, because sometimes if we choose a person to talk to about it, but they might just help us be more mad. And then they say, I'm on your side, and there's this side's right, that side's wrong, let's have a fight.
Let's have a bigger fight.
Yeah.
Let's have war.
So it's important to talk to somebody wise.
We want to pick someone that can really help us get that stone out of our heart. Yeah.
Kind of like that king we read about today who had
Yeah.
the golden heart.
Oh, tell us that. King with the golden heart. What happened?
So he was very generous, remember?
Yeah, he gave away a lot of his things.
And then what
And-
happened?
Something.
Wasn't it that guy up in the sky?
Yeah.
Chakra.
Yeah, Chakra took all his things, then he worked hard, and then he had to work even harder, and then he got all his things back.
But he was still kind, no matter
Yeah.
what.
No matter what, he didn't even get in
Wow.
an argument.
He didn't get in an argument.
He was sort
even
of a
they took
Buddhist
all
version
his
of Job.
things. Wow. Yeah, so no matter what happens, we try to stay kind. That's such a total core of Buddhist teaching. Doesn't matter what other people do, we know what we're doing. We're staying kind. And I know, because I've been with all of you, how kind you are, and very kind to one another. And at school and at home.
And I've
So.
watched you guys kind of grow together as friends, and it's been really neat for me to watch that, because that's not me doing that, that's just you guys doing
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Well, thank
I
you.
remember one thing that was helpful when I heard it. And when I read about this, they said, when you have a real disagreement and you're really strongly disagreeing, and it's starting to be a fight, you should at least fight fair. And I thought, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Doesn't
And
even
what
do
it
anything.
meant was that if you're disagreeing about this is this way, and I say, no, it's not that way, it's this other way, then you only disagree about that. You don't add in, oh, you think that because you're dumb.
And even when he says that to me, I'm kind.
So you only
Sometimes.
you just stick to what you're really disagreeing about,
Right.
and then you can figure out then you can remember how much you really basically you like your friend. You're just disagreeing about
Yeah.
this one thing.
Yeah.
But you
I
don't
disagree
make
about
it bigger.
A whole entire chain of things.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's when we're in trouble, isn't
Yeah.
it?
You
And if
gotta
I
try to
tried-
break all the little tiny chain pieces to try to
There you
figure out
go.
the argument.
Yeah.
Hard to do that.
If I
That's
say
why you
Zopa
only
is
have
dumb, maybe
one.
she'll tell me that I'm even dumber. And then I'll think of something else.
Yeah,
Well,
now
but
we've
you
got a
always
big
wear
chain
purple
going.
shirts.
I know, and then I say, I don't always.
Like,
And you're right. Break
oh.
every chain,
Break every
chain, and go, maybe I'm not so sure about what I'm saying.
But it's like better to only have one small piece of a chain to break than a whole entire long one.
Yep, and focus right there and just break it.
Focus really hard and try to break it.
And then you let yourself free.
Then you just let all that badness and you just bury that piece of chain.
I like that.
Big,
Just
quick,
let it go.
big. Just shove the dirt into the ground.
All right, we got it.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
That was
you.
very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you
Thank
for your
you.
questions.
Thank all
you
of
guys.
you.
We're gonna go play.
Please come back in the fall.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know I'm going to be back here again.
Yay.
We're glad.
And my name's Mary Williams, if there's anybody here that wants some information about the children's program.
And if you're interested in helping, we're looking, as we move into a bigger space with room for more children,
Yeah.
we're looking for people to help Mary. So
Yeah.
you can contact me or Mary.
Let other people with kids know.
Yeah, and let other parents know. Okay, Luther,
Well,
welcome
I was
here.
trying to say that's the one time it's good to have Alzheimer.
One time it's good to have the Dharma.
Alzheimer. Alzheimer. So you forget things.
Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's. Good.
Oh, Alzheimer's. Yeah, then you can really let go.
That's the answer for the adults group.
The older
What
person.
argument?
Yeah, totally let go, yeah. Sometimes forgetting is very helpful. Yeah, yeah, for sure, really. Okay, time for your Dharma questions or comments.
Wish those guys on the Max train, I wish that guy on the Max train could have heard that before.
Yeah, you want to say a little more, Linda?
I just, I mean, what about the man on the Max train who was so out of control and look what happened?
Yeah. How many already know about this news on the Max trains? Some don't. So there was 2 murders on the Max train yesterday, Friday. The details are not totally in, or I haven't read this morning yet, but there was some kind of harassment going on evidently by someone who was very, very disturbed of some young women. There was some anti-Muslim or anti-immigrant statements. 2 people stepped in to try and help and ended up being killed, and another person wounded. They did catch the person who stabbed them and then ran away. It's just so horrifying, yeah. And as Linda's saying, there you go, it's a perfect example of how the mind of one person starts spinning in a direction of total suffering, and then boom, more suffering, more suffering. So this is such a good example. Whenever I think, sometimes I'm, my little room up there doing my shamatha, and this discouraged mind can start, although I'm getting it faster and going, no, you don't. But this discouraged mind can start, well, what good is it me sitting up here in this little room while war rages all around, and Syria and refugees and stabbings on the max. But you look at what the mind can create. Just one mind creates these things. Wars are created by mind, peace is created by mind, buildings are created by mind. Everything starts with a thought. We want a Dharma center. So what, 30, 40 years ago? People work hard, buy a house, fix it up. Some of those people still here. And we get this. And someone in their mind is in kind of a hell realm. Everything's scary, everything's angry, everything's like this poor being, and boom, kills 2 people.
And that person, it had a history of doing things online and in person that kind of white supremacist kind of activities. And so you just think about, that's kind of an example of where his practice was focused. And so then in a situation, then that's what plays into his mind, just like if whatever we do habitually is going to come to play in a situation that we find ourselves in. So that's, as you're saying, that's a good example for how what we work at and do repeatedly, and how we think repeatedly, and how we speak and act repeatedly is kind of the basis for what we might do.
On Wednesday I asked Lama Drukyu about the 6 rounds. He didn't have a lot of time because I didn't realize time had run out, but in Buddhism we have these 6 realms: the hell realm, hungry ghost, hell realm full of anger and fear, hungry ghost full of craving and fear, animals, this kind of limited view we could call stupidity or ignorance, where it's just, eat and gather and watch out for your enemy or grab your enemy, or and then the human realm, which actually in some ways can reflect all those. We can have, we can be in those. Each moment of the day, you can kind of use these realms to think, wow, which realm did I just fall into? I'm totally angry and fearful. And then we go from human to demigods who are higher but jealous, not enough yet, competitive, want more, more, more. And the God realm, total pleasure, don't care about anybody, my pleasure's the center, but in the end, it ends. And you see this coming, and you see there's nowhere to go but down. And it's terribly frightening, and the other gods start ignoring you. We can see all these in the human realm. So I've always struggled with these, like, are they somewhere? Because I grew up fundamental Catholic, there was a hell somewhere to fall into. And asking Lama Drupku, being reminded, oh yeah, it's all in your mind. As Dora was referring to, we create the hell realm. I can get into it right now. I can start thinking of people I hate or that I fear, and then really meditate on that and make it grow. I'm in a hell realm, and I carry that around, and it affects others. Or I can be very competitive, be in the jealous God realm. I have a lot. I'm a Dharma teacher, but I want more. I want more. And I can become jealous of those that, let's say, have opportunities to go on 3-year retreat or translate for a Lama. So here I miss this opportunity to rejoice in it and, gain the merit of it, and to say, oh my gosh, because they do that, the world is better. But my mind can get like, I want that. How come they got that? Of course, karma lets you know. Keep practicing. You get what you actually need to wake up. Bill, please share.
Oh.
Like you were making a little sharing noise.
Oh.
Maybe we all know each other too well over here. One of those little sharing noises.
I wasn't feeling compelled to share something, but I think one of the things that came to mind is just how we can talk as though kind of things being all in the mind, that it's very kind of personally kind of separated. And there is some aspect to that in terms of how we work with what arises in our experience. But when I look at the example of what happened with the fellow on the train, that he clearly had been part of a larger, you could say, conversation, to give it perhaps more dignity than it deserves, but living within a realm where people talk back and forth to each other and encourage each other in certain ways. And it's easy from the outside to say, oh, well, see, those people are wrong about that, and I can point out all kinds of things where I think there's many things problematic and incorrect and harmful and all these other things, but that does not mean that we are not also capable of planting seeds that resonate and encourage others to do something. And just as this person can be said to be, at an individual level, can be said to be a disturbed individual. And we might feel that things that we say, certain kinds of harsh speech that we engage in, well, any reasonable person would think that's kind of a joke or sort of hyperbole. But the fact is that there are disturbed people who can absorb all those kinds of ideas and engage in acts just as horrific. That there isn't any thread. There's no direction that you can go that's not kind of not saved from this possibility. So it's more a reason to think that when you're sitting by yourself and reflecting on your own activities, that you are more likely to be able to at least keep the body and the speech from sharing some of the more extreme impulses that arise in the mind. And I think it's very important. And it's important to try to figure out very creatively how to say things that really do introduce something positive and practical in the world, not necessarily, and to avoid the sense that of going to shortcuts, of thinking that just because I'm on the right side, that I don't need to be very precise and careful in my thinking. I need to be very careful and precise and reflect and stop myself before I say certain kinds of things.
And the minute that I'm picking up on the word side, my side, the minute we have a side, we are out of equanimity. It's gone. So that's one of the 4 immeasurables, so important. And on the Mahayana Bodhisattva path, we try and see that. Our mind is doing sides. This whole past year of the election and all that was such fertile ground for that, over and over, having to deal with the anger, the fear, still happens, and coming again and again. Everyone is suffering. So one thing I have gotten from my teacher, Venerable Thupten Chidren, who, by the way, will be in Portland Friday, this next Friday evening, Saturday, at Maya Tripa, is this new habit. And I realized I've got it now. It's so cool. If you work a habit, you'll get the new habit. And my habit now is when I hear something like the stabbing on the Max, automatically compassion for all of them. And I instantly include the killer, just like that. This did not used to happen, but now it does. In fact, what my teacher said is that one is, of course, has been your mother. You can take that view at least. Since beginningless time, this one has nurtured you, helped you, been kind to you, not in this form, in this life. You have to open up to the huge Buddhist worldview. Has been very kind to you. You've at times been horrible to them. Just imagine this. We imagine in order to bring our hearts to this unfamiliar thing called equanimity. It's unfamiliar to us. We're all about sides and teams and win and lose. But it brings us there. And once you're sitting there like that, and I often, if it's a guy, I think, oh, my brother, I have 2 brothers. I love them dearly. One is dead. I still love him dearly. But I think, oh, my brother did this thing, and it's instant heart opening. What if that was your brother? Oh, my God. You would just feel so sad for that one and worried about them and what's going to happen to them. And so that opening to the so-called other is really, really important. And as my teacher said, it's important not so much for them, but of course it is, but for your mind. This is the mind training. We have to train away from sides, teams, win and lose. We're all on the same team. We're just a bunch of suffering beings, confused like crazy. So when someone like the current president shows up, I get caught in all my aversion. I'm right. I read all the articles. I make all the legal arguments in my head. But I already know that habit. So what this situation has brought is an opportunity, and many of you have said this, an opportunity to cultivate this different habit of 2 things. How is what Bill just referred to, how is my mind disturbed like that? You know, I have some of those kind of things. I'm so right. I'm so big ego. I want to take over and fix everything. And I'm going to do that by telling you what you're going to do. And how is my mind? I like to be important. I like to look good. You know, you can just explore, you know, how am I like that? It's a mirror. And then the second part is to do that work of, this one has been kind to me in the past. This is something I can work with. And he's suffering. Oh my God, is he suffering? And he's bringing suffering. So at a minimum, what I can do is just quickly, my mantra for him is, may you be well, may you be happy, may you grow in wisdom and compassion. Think how good that would be if he grows in wisdom and compassion. So wish him that at least, I mean, for our own sakes, rather than you know, blankety blank. Dora has something.
Oh, I was just, it was striking me that a great exercise in that first genre is, if we don't think that we have the same kind of problem that that person has, if I think about it and I think, well, let's see, if I just met that person and I was on that train, right there, that shows how much I'm like that person in terms of how I would instantly decide he was a bad person and somebody I wanted to change and that I'm right, you know, and sort of my, you know, what all comes up in my, so and I think it really does help that piece of, I mean, that's just a piece of that thing of seeing that we have those poisons too, and yeah, and then those everyone has the goodness too.
Yeah,
Pretty
Heather.
tough.
Oh, sorry, were you done? Yeah.
I was gonna, I don't know if this is right or not, but one of the, I've been doing mind training, and I don't know if it is a mind training slogan or not, but I was really suffering in my head one day, and I was like, man, you are adding gasoline to an already lit fire. Don't do that.
Uh-huh.
And I was just thinking about, you know, how to, like, for myself at least, to encapsulate what you all were saying in a way that I could remember. And I was just thinking about that, like, don't add gasoline.
Yeah.
And if you can, don't cut off the flow of oxygen.
What does that mean? I like that. What's it
You know,
mean?
whenever there's like a candle, if you put something over the top, it burns itself out. But
Remove the fuel.
yeah, remove the fuel. Sometimes you can't do that.
Yeah.
But we're all capable of torching the neighborhood.
And that, to me, that goes against the pride thing. I mean, I look at someone and I'm like, he's so proud, he's so arrogant, nah, nah, nah. And then just like Dora says, I look at the one saying that, who's so righteous in this moment and so correct. And it's really fun to kind of set her out there and go, huh, okay, I see you. Yeah.
I ride the Max all the time. I mean, until I get here. I rode this morning, and we all kind of sat up at the front next to the driver
Yeah.
today. You know, there's a lot of what I would call interesting people who ride the Max, especially at certain times of day and so on. And I get a sense of how we failed so many people in this society.
Yeah.
It's just a real sadness comes over me sometimes to see this. You know, homeless people dragging their bags of stuff on so they can go 3 stops up or something, or you know, people that are obviously mentally ill, and you know, why don't they have good care? You know, there is care for what they have, and it just know, it's another whole, what's another whole realm in which to practice is
Yeah.
one thing, but it's just heartbreaking
Yes,
to
it
see
is.
so much of this. It's really heartbreaking.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a great story about bodhisattvas, and one a high teacher came to a monastery and was just talking about what's going on there, and someone said, "Oh, we've got this really great bodhisattva, knows all the texts and recites them, and really smart, really good in Dharma." And the person, the high teacher visiting, said, "Oh, that's wonderful," but seemed somewhat disinterested. And then they said, "Oh, we have this bodhisattva monk here who, does sadhanas and meditation and just constant. And see, they're trying to show off their goods." And the visiting teacher said, "Oh, that's nice." And then someone came and said, "We have this guy here. He just walks around crying all the time, like he's got a broken heart." And at this, the teacher was impressed. It was like, that's compassion. The joining, the feeling, the open-heartedness. Because most of us, it's hard to stay open. It's hard. We want to shut down and just take care of our bubble. And so we open the heart, and then that's a big first piece that it hurts. And then, for me, the next piece is not to judge anyone, not even why doesn't the culture do this or why doesn't the culture do that, because then I'm right back in it, criticizing. And I'm not saying you're doing this, you're just giving a way for me to talk about this. But, the other thing I've done on a relative level, just very practical, I notice when I'm feeling that and I start hard to stay in the sadness. It will come and go, of course. You don't want to manufacture it, but hard to let it be. Then to avoid the blaming that starts up. For me, it's do something. Do a thing. Do something. And I instantly feel, I don't know what. Maybe I'm just making myself happy, but that's not a bad thing. But I'll go through the park or something, and I take two $1 with me, and I just see if the opportunity rises. But I kind of be prepared to do something. Or maybe the opportunity only rises to say, "Hi, how are you today?" And maybe the person looks away, but generally they don't. Generally people like to talk and be seen.
One thing that I
How are you today?
really, in that circumstance, I'll ask somebody, "What's your name?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that kind of, I think, gives them the sense that they are somebody. And I think so many of these people are so used to being nobody.
Yeah. And I just say, "How you doing today?" And they, they'll
Yeah.
they'll do whatever.
Yeah.
They're me on the street. I always thought I was going to end up being a bag lady. I'm almost one. No, not really. I'm constantly given to, so my aspiration is to be a bag lady on the board.
Your career plan is on hold.
And of course, I wouldn't really want to be because it's so hard out there. But it's funny, and realizing I'm saying that so we don't rise above.
Yeah.
I'm the helper, they're the helpee. No, that's me. Jesus was very into that. Don't know why I'm talking about Jesus, but Buddha, Jesus, very into that's not someone else. That's me on the street, my last life, or that's me on the street in 2 years. So that's the way to approach. There used to be an old woman. I would see her in the most amazing places over on Hawthorne when I lived by there. And she was about 3.5 feet tall, I swear. She was so tiny. And when I saw her, I just burst into tears the first time because I don't know what happened, but I'd just say, Grandma, what are you doing on the street? I mean, it was so spontaneous. And she had a little scarf on and stuff, and she said, well, they put me here. She spoke in English, but quite an accent. They put me here. So then I was worried someone's exploiting her, but talked with her. It's her family. This she saw as her job. She begged, and they left her different places. So I would see her, get her some lunch, or see her downtown, see her in Northwest, see her over Southeast. So they had different little places. But she just became Grandma on the street, I didn't try to save her or anything, but we would see each other, and I'd always say, Grandma. And it really helped me cut that, This is not someone to pity. This is not, I'm connected. So I just put this out. So use these tricks. We're tricking our mind into the connection it may not automatically feel. So when we're out there, oh, my brother, oh, my mom, oh, my sister, oh, my grandma, and the heart really opens. It's like, oh, And I found out she did have a place to live. It opens so you want to talk. How are you doing? Do you have a place to live? Do you have food? She was in low-income housing, and this was her job. This was her job for her family. She went out on the street several hours a day and brought the money home.
You talked about living inside our bubbles.
Yeah.
And you could say also the protective perimeter.
Yeah.
The protective perimeter.
Personal territory.
Yeah, personal territory.
Yeah.
It gets used so much that I want to think of some other ways to talk about it. But our ability to actually connect in these rather direct ways, and we're just speaking sort of one domain of being able to reach out. But to be able to do that, you have to feel okay enough.
Yes.
You have to feel okay enough. And usually we don't think that we're going to do that because we're expedient. We're very efficient about what we do. So we don't use our time to have a conversation that would be maybe just a waste of time. That's kind of the efficiency expert would just say, why bother? They're just homeless, and what am I going to get out of it? What are they going to get out of it?
Yeah.
But there's also the piece of it might be uncomfortable. I might not know what to say, or they might say something else.
Yeah.
But to really be able to have those conversations, we have to deal with what's inside the bubble.
Yeah, thank you.
So this is as it says, begin in the mind training. There's the phrase in terms of taking and sending. Begin the process of taking and sending with yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's not. I say this often, but I think it's an exceptionally important principle. It's not just some kind of morally dictated. You first A, then B, then C, because then you'll have it in the right order. There's a practical reason for that, in that if we can't actually see what's going on in our own minds and see the character of the confusion, see the means by which we can actually unravel it a little bit or unravel it a lot, without that, the bubble will just get, the defensive perimeter will just get stronger. We will feel more and more inclined to strengthen that.
Protect ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that, I think, goes back to what Lama Drupke said. It's here. This is the Buddha. And the deeper we get that, the more we take good care of ourselves, the more we love ourselves, and the more then it just can come naturally out to others. So for me, it's been a long journey of stopping helping people, and with some sense of control and some sense of otherness. And it's still, of course, a journey, but there's nobody out there different. Buddha nature. And it's just unfolding. There's an opportunity to on a relative level, practice generosity, or challenge my fear, challenge my embarrassment. Take the challenge, it's fun. And it might not be fun sometimes. You get some things back, but it's all fodder for practice. Next time.
By this virtue may I quickly realize Mahamudra and establish all beings without exception in this state.
Thank you so much. And if you can stay, please help us clean. And if you can't stay, at least pick up